just so personally. If you want to enhance your showering experience, I highly recommend Outkast listening or singing to yourself. So Fresh, So Clean by Outkast while taking a shower. That song is not about showering, but when you listen to it and or sing it whilst in the shower, play it. Hi, my name is Alana. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And on this channel, we review books. If you see me looking over here, it's because I've changed my setup just a little bit. So my lens is no longer here, it's here. And that's helped me get it a little bit straighter. The shelves are no longer like this a little bit. They weren't this dramatic, but it's helped me straighten some things out. So it's just, I have to train myself now not to look here, but to look here at the lens. And so I might be looking a little cross-eyed as I'm getting used to how I've switched things around. This video is to re-review or re-talk about, re-record I had two videos in the past few months, several months, maybe the past 6 months, that ended abruptly. I had technical difficulties, didn't realize it until I actually got into the editing that I had either lost audio or the frame froze. And so I lost content and I wasn't going to go back and fix it in that moment. Didn't know what happened to the files. Yeah. So those two reviews those two books that I lost content or lost data rather while I was talking about them was Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell and Grove Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark and Grove by Esther Kinsky. And so my thoughts caught off while I was talking about them, and I wanted to finish it because they were cliffhanger endings. But also the Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell video was so funny because the last frame is me like holding my hand in my head, my head in my hands rather, and I just look miserable because this book was a struggle for me. But it was great. Like, it actually summed up how I felt about the book. Let's talk about Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I read this last year. I tried to read it last year. I DNF'd it a little over halfway through. This is a 1,000-page novel, like almost exactly a 1,000-page novel in my edition. I was so excited to read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I thought it was going to be a top year. Sorry, burping. I should put that on a shirt. Burping. ... and sell it. And maybe I can find an alternate way to make it in this world. Or what else do I say that I realize that's an Alana-ism? Okay. I know I say things like, okay. Things that I just say that I don't think about, but people in the comments point out as like something that's quintessential to my videos. I can't claim this though. Lots of cultures do this. Anyway, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. This caffeine's hitting today. I weaned myself off caffeine for a few days. Then I had some caffeine and it says it's working, it's hitting. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. It has everything in a book, in a novel that I should love. It's historical fiction. It's got magical realism / fantasy kind of blended into it. It takes place in the Victorian times and it's written in a Dickensian fashion. And you know I like my boy Chuck. I had a love-hate relationship when I first started reading my boy Chuck, aka Charles Dickens. That should go on a shirt. My boy Chuck. My boy D Money, Dostoevsky. Man, I need to think about this. Anyway, and so listen, I thought I was really going to like this book. And when I first started reading it, I was like, okay, Susanna, okay, I'm feeling it. I didn't feel it for long though. And I couldn't get through it. I couldn't finish it. I was bored to tears. And this book takes place during the Napoleonic Wars. And you have, it was said that magic had been dead in England. But then we have these two magicians that come, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. And so they brought magic back to England. I'm paraphrasing greatly, but they bring magic back to England. They do use their powers their magic to help assist in the Napoleonic Wars. But this book is so slow. It was unusually slow for me. It took me 6 weeks to get through half of the book, and by then I was done. And for reference, it took me 6 weeks to read War and Peace cover to cover. So it just kept moving at a glacial pace, and then I would get to these points in the book where I'm like, okay, things are moving, and then Susanna Clarke takes you from 60 to 0 again. And it's these sections that actually don't need to exist in the book at all. And this book has footnotes. I could actually read the book without the footnotes. And I get why she put the footnotes in, but the book was tedious. Oh my gosh. So there were some chapters that were really encroaching, but for the majority of the book, of what I read, I just did not care. And for me to get through more than halfway through a 1,000-page book and not care, I'm like, I'm putting the book down. I got other things to read, honey. So yeah, no. Clearly, Clarke is a very talented writer. She knows how to string sentences together on a page. It feels very Dickensian. She nailed it, but there was, with the way that she wrote it, it does feel Dickensian. And I can see why people love this book. But for me, it just didn't click. And when I said on Instagram in a post that this never clicked, there were people who said that a lot of people agreed with me, but there were people who said that the first time they tried it, they had to put it down. They picked it up later in life and it clicked for them. Other people said they've tried it multiple times and it just never clicked for them. I even switched to the audiobook, which I don't prefer to do for novels. I even switched to the audiobook and I just did not care. So unfortunately, I just put the book down altogether. I just couldn't get on with it. I was bored to tears. Oh, it was a slog. But you can see I've kept the book. I was down here, the chicken mug. The chicken cup. I kept the book because there might be a time I might try it again. There may be a time later down the road I may try it again. But no. As of now, it's a no for me. I do have Piranesi somewhere over here. There it is. I have Piranesi. I will try that later, but this one didn't work for me. And I'm actually kind of mad about it. I wanted to like it so bad. I was really disappointed in not liking it. Sometimes you read books and you're like, oh man, I hope I really like this. I have a feeling I'm really going to like it. And I was like, what the? Another one. Impromptu. Another one that I wanted to toss. Dorothy Dunnett's The Game of Kings. You guys, I remember it's 2022, 2023, early 23. Yeah, I'm going to read this. I hope this is going to be one of my top reads. This is bonus material, you guys. This was not planned. I looked here and I'm like, I never talked about what happened with me in Game of Kings. Scottish author. Oh my gosh. Scottish author. Arthur and the pronoun, the name Arthur are hard for me to say because for me they're the same. I pronounce them the same. Arthur. For those of you who are PBS kids growing up, and PBS really, man, I remember growing up. You watched the show Arthur the Aardvark, and now back to Arthur. So I say it that way because that's how I grew up hearing it. Anyway. Dorothy Dunnett's The Game of Kings. This is a 6-volume series. Again, this is a book. I love historical fiction. This is a time in history where the monarchies in Europe are in turmoil. You have Henry VIII, who's just passed. Now his young, sickly kid is on the throne. And who is really the rightful heir. And you have England going into Scotland and all this other stuff. This is my cup of tea, right? I did not understand what in the world I read. This book is unnecessarily confusing. I got over 100 pages in, and I was like, I can't do it. This is overly complicated. I've heard that the second book and then moving forward, Done It does a better job scaling back and making it a lot less convoluted, but I put it down. I even had a guide to help me through. And I got some of the references. I got the Greek references. I got the biblical references that she's quoting. It's just unnecessary. And it wasn't even Scott's dialect that threw me off. I had no problem understanding that. It was just too much. And I put it down. I was so frustrated. And again, another one I was really disappointed in because it was just overly complicated, which is a shame. I will say this. Why am I so hyped? It's the coffee. I will say this. I think that Diana Gabaldon was inspired by Game of Kings in some cases. And in this case, I think she took this tiniest little crumb and crafted Jamie from this main character. What is his name? Francis Crawford. Yeah, this place takes place in Scotland, 1547. Because the way that he's described is very similar to Jamie's description in Outlander. The blue eyes that are shaped a certain way, they're almost cat-like. His physique. That is how this main character is described. There's also an English character. I love breadcrumbs like this. I always say that books are a conversation because great authors read great authors. And I'm not saying that Dorothy Dunnett's not a great author. I'm just saying I read this at a time, I think perhaps, where I was like, I can't do this. There is a character named Claire in here who's English. Diana Gabaldon, my girl. She's paying homage. That's my thing. Anyway, yeah, Game of Kings. You guys never knew what happened to me with Game of Kings. And I'm still keeping it on my shelf because I still think that it might be one of those books in one of those series where I'm going to need to pick it up in life later, right? I'm going to pick it up later perhaps and with fresher eyes, maybe at a different time in my life where I have the patience to deal with it. But that was another one. I want to like it. I want to like Game of Kings. That's why I'm keeping it on my shelf. I might visit it at a different time because I've heard that when you get into how she ties things together and what happens in the other books in the series, and she does refine her craft as a writer and hones things back, or kind of scales back with some of the references and stuff. I feel like she did too much in this first book, and I know people who love it said she did too much in this first book. I just wasn't in the headspace to do it, so I'm going to keep it on my shelf because I want to give it another try. With that aside, that was impromptu. I had no script for that, so got what you got. Grove. Let's move forward. Grove by Esther Kinsky. I should do a review, a whole separate review for Grove. I think it actually deserves it. This book is beautiful. Oh my gosh. Grove by Esther Kinsky. Let's move this. Translated from the German. But I am putting it in Under the Radar. So I did my third installment from my Under the Radar series, if you will, finally. And the video cut off. And it cut off as I was talking about Grove. And this book is so gorgeous. I really think it deserves more attention. And it deserves for me to go back and finish what I was saying. So we have an unnamed narrator who goes to Italy after the death of a loved one. And so she's observing nature and the ongoings around her as she's processing her grief. And she's reflecting on her memories that the surrounding landscape evoke. And it shows how our environments impact our memories and vice versa, based on what we were going through in life while we were in a space. And Grove is beautifully written, even for a translated novel. It is just stunning. Kudos to the translator. And I have River by Esther Kinsky that I need to read. If you like nature writing, this is for you. If you like books that discuss books and novels, fiction and nonfiction, that discuss memory and grief, this is a beautiful book. And Esther Kinsky discusses grief in a way that's not oppressive. Yes, there is a mood to it. It's a bit melancholy, but it is gorgeous. Nature writing fans, or fans of nature, in general, those of you who like to go out and just look at the beauty in the earth, on the earth, oh man, Grove is stunning. And so, highly recommend. I should do a full review on this. I have a full review on this that is buried somewhere on Instagram. This is another book that you read just for the sake of reading if you love good language. This book is one of those books I think that you could skim through it. It's not thick. The reason why it looks thicker than it is because it's really excellent paper quality. The Fitzcarraldo editions, this publisher does gorgeous books. Very simple, minimalist. The chapters are very, very short. I think it's the perfect book to pick up before bed when you just want to read a couple pages before going to sleep, because the chapters are so short. You can just read a little snippet and go to bed, and you're not stopping in the narrative in weird places. Also excellent to read maybe on a slow morning with a cup of coffee when you just want to sit down and read for a few minutes. Grove. Chef's kiss. So good. So good. I think when I read it, I gave it at least a 4 out of 5, maybe a 4.5 out of 5. Stunning. Stunning. I'm hyped today. The coffee hit, man. You know what? Coffee lovers. And then I'm going to sign out. And this is coming from a coffee lover. Players, we got to roll it back to get the full effect. I cut coffee out for a few days, and I had my first cup in a few days, and it's hitting. Who is hitting? All right. With that, please feel free to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. And those of you who are Game of King fans in particular, please tell me why I should push past it. All right. Because I'm so sad. It really hurt my feelings that I just didn't get on with it on my first try. Feel free to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, where I get up to more bookish shenanigans. I post goofy things in the Instagram stories because we all need a good chuckle, right? Life's difficult enough. Sometimes you gotta laugh to keep from crying. And with that, I'm going to sign out. Bye.